All right, guys, welcome to the Week 1 recap. So, Week 1, NFL season's in the books. It's a very hype week. Lots of big breakout players, mainly wide receivers. Lots of action on the waiver wire. Lots of close matchups. So let's just break it down. What are we going to do? So this week we're going to be breaking it off with a little bit of a new format I'd like to test out. So feel free to give me some feedback, some comments, what you guys think about it, any changes you'd like to see. Let's get into it. Enough of this introduction shit. Didn't really prepare anything to ad-lib on the intro. So getting into our first weekly category, we got the big boy boom of the week. Goes to the top scorer of the week, person who outproduced their projections by the most. And week 1, pretty easy to see. The big boy boom of the week goes to my brother Johnny. Johnny put up 185.04 points to 133 from Mikey. 133, usually good enough to get you a win in this league, but 185.04, that's usually going to be a big boy boom. So hats off to you, Johnny, there. Outperformed his projections by almost 50 points with a combined 30 points each from Patrick Mahomes, Watson, not combined, but 30 points each individually from Watson, Mahomes, and Derrick Henry. Big boy boom of the week right there goes to my boy Johnny. On the other side of the coin, we got the piss poor performance of the week. And as much as it pains me to say that my prediction was wrong on this one, but I love to see it. Big piss poor performance of the week goes to my boy Joey. Joey puts up a paltry 99.92 to JB's 157.04. Didn't even break 100 points. The only team to miss the 100-point mark in the league. Missed his projections by over 30 points. Got a measly 1 point from Eric Ebron. And lost despite his opponent putting up a goose egg. Geronimo Allison. JB still putting up 157 over that goose egg. Giving Joey the piss poor performance of the week. We all know Joey had a fluke couple of years, had the number 1 overall pick 2 years in a row, won the championship off both of those. Ever since then, it's been really, really bad. Sacco contention last year, and starting week 1 off with not even breaking 100 points. So tip my cap to you, Joey. Piss poor performance of the week. Next up, we got the booty clencher of the week. This week's booty clenching matchup comes down to Vishal versus Kevin. Kevin squeaks it out past Vishal, aka Zaya, 170 points to 168. Very, very close, high scoring on both sides. It was just a barn burner of a matchup, and Kevin squeaks out at the end. Kevin was down 54 points heading into Monday night with 3 players to go. Drew Brees, DeAndre Hopkins, and Phillip Lindsay. Brees and Hopkins put up near 50 points on their own on the early Monday night game. Vishal was up by like 6.6 heading into the final game with only Phillip Lindsay to go. And Phillip Lindsay, that magnificent stallion, gallops to 8.6 points, gets Kevin the win, puts Vishal's fluke-ass team in his place. 40-point performance from Austin Eckler does nothing for Vishal there. And Kevin had like Deshaun Jackson on the bench too, 30 points on the bench right there. So would have been pretty salty if Kevin would have lost, and maybe would have been a contender for this next category. Like that segue. Next category is Put Me In Coach of the Week. This week's Put Me In Coach award goes to Zach. Now the Put Me In Coach of the Week award goes to the person who left the biggest performance on their bench, and if they would have started that guy, they would have won. So Zach left Josh Gordon on the bench for 14.8 points and instead opted to play Marvin Jones, which got him 8 points. Lost by less than 5 to Evan, 111.48 to 116.62. Zach would have started Josh Gordon over Marvin Jones. He would have won that game, and I think we can all say that you don't deserve Flash. Can't be leaving him on the bench, man. It's Josh Gordon. That guy's active. He's in the lineup. That's how it is. It's been like that since 2013. All right, in our final category of the week, we got the big spender, person who dropped the most money on the waiver wire. And this week, we got Big Papa coming in. dropping a fat $59 on Darren Waller, the tight end out of Oakland, when he already had Vance McDonald. Did fine, you know, he maybe didn't overproduce like how everyone was expecting him to, but he was out there for like 70% of the snaps, did fine. But nope, Big Papa's seen enough. $60 on Darren Waller. Can tell somebody watched some Hard Knocks, because that is a huge bid, man. That was a huge bid. I don't remember what the second highest bid on that was, but I can tell you it was not even close to $50. And then the second highest spender of the week goes to Kevin. Marquise Brown dropped $53 on that. So decent. All right, boys. Now we're going to get into the power rankings. This week, power rankings, we got Johnny coming in at number 1 after that huge performance. Just his power rank average is just like 0.69. The next highest or closest to that is like 2.23. So he's going to have that number 1 spot on lockdown for a while. He's number 1 in overall wins, number 1 in points per game. He's got the highest playoff odds. Fantasy Pros got him number 1 ranked roster. So it looks like, unfortunately, Johnny is the team to beat as of now, early in the season. We know how Johnny usually goes. You know, always starts off hot and then just doesn't manage mid-season at all, falls off a cliff, yada, yada, yada. We know where it goes. So number 1 in the power rankings there. Number 2, we got Zaya coming in, which is surprising. He was the 5th highest scorer of the week, had 141 points. But Fantasy Pros giving him that number 2 roster, putting him over Mark, probably because of those running backs. I think Dalvin Cook came in and showed everybody why he's, you know, still a first-round pick, even despite getting injured the last 2 years. So hats off to you there, Zaya. Coming in at number 3, we got Kevin coming off that 170-point performance, even though Fantasy Pros does not rank his roster highly, down at number 10. Still got him here at the number 3 spot due to that overall wins and the points per game. JB rounding out the top 4, 157 points. Got the number 8 Fantasy Pros roster, so again, not too high there, but it's early in the season. Who knows? Those roster rankings are very, very prone to fluctuate. Number 5, we got Vishal dropping down, had the preseason ranking. So the arrows mean where your roster rank was in the preseason. So if you saw those initial power rankings that we put out in the preseason, that's if you were higher than you were there, then you'll get a green arrow. If you're lower, then you get a red arrow. So Vishal coming down, dropping to number 5. I think he had a higher ranked roster than that. Losing it with 168 points, so he was the biggest scoring loser, so that puts him in at number 5. Then we got Evan in at number 6 with his big tight ends. Number 4 ranked Fantasy Pros roster, 117 scored last week. Gets the win over Zach, but has a overall losing record, 4-7 overall wins. So I think that's why he's depressed here in the rankings behind Vishal, who lost his first week. Number 7, we got Mike, who also lost his first week, but is ahead of the last week 1 winner here on the power rankings, which would be George coming in at number 8. George won his week 1 matchup against me, kind of fluky, but he still comes in at number 8 on the power rankings due to having the dead last ranked roster, putting up only 128 points per game, which would have lost him almost any other matchup he would have played against, except I happen to put up an even lower score than that. So number 9, we got Mark, Mr. Big Papa, coming in. He had the number 1 ranked roster going into week 1. Now it's number 3, so a little bit of a dip there. Only scored 116 points and 3-8 overall record, rounds out number 9. And then Mr. Commish himself, the dictator, coming in at number 10. I don't know what to say about week 1. It was just not good. Missing Antonio Brown on the bench. Cam Newton only put up 5 points. Absolutely putrid, so that just dug me into an early grave. Had a chance to win it there at the end, but Emmanuel Sanders coming in late to give George that W. And then number 11, we got Zach. 1-10 overall wins, 112 points per game underneath me. And number 9, ranked roster on Fantasy Pros. And dead ass last, we got our piss poor performer himself, Joey. Just solidifying his place in the power rankings last year, matching it up again this year. 0-11 on the overall wins. Last place in points per game. And the number 11 Fantasy Pros ranked roster. So, Joey, you are the weakest link right now. All right, guys, to finish out the show, we're going to go into our Week 2 predictions. So, Week 2, our first matchup, we got myself versus Kevin. Of course, I'm going to predict myself again earlier in the year. I think Kevin had a little bit of a fluke. Sammy Watkins put up like almost 50 points. Deshaun Jackson almost put up 30 points. Be surprised to see both of those guys do it again. predicting myself to win on the back of Cam Newton in a comeback game tonight, Thursday night. I think he's going to do well. Sony Michel should have a bounce-back game against the Dolphins, where he should be able to run free. And my boy Antonio Brown expected to make his Patriots debut. I've got myself winning that matchup. Second, we got Zach versus George. I've got Zach winning this one in an upset over the defending champ. George's win last week was a big fluke. All right, big fluke. No way he deserved it. Old man Delaney Walker is not scoring 2 touchdowns again. Zach should be starting Josh Gordon in a prime smash matchup. And for that, I'm giving Zach the edge here. Zach over George. Putting the defending champ down to 1-1. Next matchup, we got JB versus Mark, Big Papa. This one's going to be close. Projections got it real close, I think within 2 points. And I've got JB squeaking this one out on the back of a getting ahead of myself here. My prediction was actually Mark to take revenge after flopping versus Zaya last week. Put in all the big money on Darren Waller. JB kind of overperformed his projections last week. I've got Mark winning this one, but I would not be surprised if that little slip of the tongue ends up being the truth there. I was looking ahead to this next matchup, Joey versus Mike. And as much as it pains me to say it, I predicted him to win last week. He was the piss poor performer. I've got Joey squeaking this one out. Think Saquon's going to have a big bounce back week. I don't know what the hell happened to his usage late there in that game. But Mike happens to be starting the Mr. Pornstash himself, Gardner Minshew. So that's not what you want to see out of your team week 2. So for that, I'm going to have to give this one to Joey. All right. Next up, we've got Vishal versus Evan. The shit talk has already started on this one. I think we got a bunch of players going on this Thursday night, so it should be interesting to see how this matchup turns out after tonight. I've got Evan winning on the back of his big tight ends. Vishal fluked his way into a 168-point loss last week. Eckler's not going to put up 40 points again. I just don't see it out of Vishal. He's got all the gifts handed to him, but I think he's going to struggle to convert those gifts into wins. And finally, our marquee matchup of the week, I've got Zaya versus Johnny. Much as I hate to say it, I think Johnny's going to win this one again, man. We'll see how long this early season win streak lasts, but those quarterbacks, they're looking real nice. If he can get a consistent 25 each out of them, which isn't far-fetched to say at all from Watson and Mahomes, should be in pretty good shape. He's got a well-rounded running back core. He's got Derrick Henry. He's got Mark Ingram, and then Kerryon Johnson, which is pretty good shape to have as your third running back there. And so I've got Johnny squeaking this one out over Zaya. Should be an interesting matchup, but there we have it, boys. That has been our Week 1 recap, Week 2 predictions show. Trying out a new format this week, so please give constructive criticism, what you liked, what you didn't like, categories you may have liked to see, categories you want me to change. Just, yeah. Got a good feeling that this, I like having structure. Because before, I would just go through each matchup sheet and just talk about what players you had and how much everybody scored and go through the power rankings and stuff like that. And it got pretty boring, to be honest. Like, ad-libbing all that stuff is always fun, but I like having some categories because I think it's pretty funny. Some pretty funny categories there. I know, Vishal, you said this was missing last time, so this one's for you, homie. Let's make it a good week, boys. Peace.